So everybody is now. It's what is it? Wednesday afternoon. My name is Mike Costello. I'm with Oakville Bluegrass Cooperative, and this is the third in a series of conversations that we're having with seed suppliers, um, specifically talking about perennial seed that falls into, or seed that can fall into that conservation cover, permanent cover, perennial cover matrix that's supported frequently by under NRCS practice 327. And so in this round, we've got Daysha here from Great Basin Seed. You may also see them out online, or if you're buying in truckload quantities of more agricultural seeds, Haystack Mountain. And so I've worked with Great Basin myself on some restoration projects, wildland restoration projects. And so I got introduced to them and have really enjoyed working with them, buying wildland seed. Oh, we may have lost Daysha for a minute there. She'll jump back in. Yeah, back on stage. So I've been buying from Great Basin for a few years for like wildland restoration projects, and have always been super impressed with the range of seeds that they've got that can fall into, pasture or cover crop or small grains, forbs, legumes. They've really got a good lineup there. And on the Haystack Mountain side, I know they've got even more. So I'm excited to have this conversation because I think it might be new material, new information, and maybe a new vendor for some folks out here in California. With Oakville Bluegrass and our goal to help more growers, especially vineyard and orchard growers, to establish permanent cover and perennial cover in their systems. We've got this grant that helps support buying the seed. We've got about $3.5 million to disperse to growers that are testing this out or expanding their perennial cover system. So we've got funds available, and the next thing we need is knowledge and information and expertise. And so that's why we're having this webinar series. So Daysha, tell us a little bit about where you all are, where you ship to, a little bit of some of the background about Great Basin and Haystack Mountain, and which should we call it? Should we refer to you as Haystack or Great Basin? Give us the whole story.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we're located in Ephraim, Utah, and we actually ship all over the United States. We've shipped even to Hawaii and Alaska. So we've hit, I think, pretty much every state we've shipped to. The company started out in 1974, and we started out in like the native seed collection, mainly is what they kind of specialized in. And since then, I think it was like 2011 is when Great Basin Seed kind of hit the internet. We were one of the first seed companies to get on the internet and have a online website. And so we've been just building that ever since. And then let's see. So yeah, we sell pretty much everything except like corn, cotton, and things like that. Legumes, cover crops, pasture grasses, alfalfa, native seeds. Yeah, and trying to think. I think that's a little bit about the background about our company.
Yeah, no, I like how when somebody goes to your website, there's a lot of information, but it's easy to navigate. It's easy to drill down on seed type or seed mix type, and by purpose or species. Legumes are listed there. You also have the different pasture mixes. I mean, it's easy to navigate. And then I also like the fact that I can quickly see, what is the growing season for this? What's the best planting season? What's the planting depth? If I'm broadcast seeding and something needs needs to be a half-inch deep, it's probably not going to go well. If I'm drill seeding and wants to be at a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, then maybe I need to adjust my seeder. there's a lot of information there to navigate and get into. I'm interested, like if people are in Alabama or Florida, Great Basin Seed, I think of Great Basin as being very focused on literally the Great Basin, on the west slope of the Wasatch over to the east slope of the Sierras, and then north and south. Are you was that the original focus, and then it's expanded beyond that, or are people finding purpose for some of these seeds and some of these species pretty much in any context?
Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of go through a series of questions when we're talking to our customers,
Okay.
because commonly people will tell us their zone, what zone they're in. And in all honesty, that's not helpful at all, because you can be in the same zone, but your soil type is very different from someone that's an hour away or even just down the road.
Okay.
Whether or not you have irrigation also plays a part on what species are going to do well, because you might have irrigation, but your neighbor might not. And so that would call for different species that can accommodate that.
Okay.
We also ask about your elevation. And a main question that we ask is that annual precipitation, especially in those dry land situations, because if they don't have irrigation, then they're relying on the annual precipitation. And just for example, like we were just up in Washington for a work trip, and in one area, it was 12 inches of annual precipitation, sagebrush country, all that. You drive 1 hour and you have green fields that have no irrigation, and they're amazing. They're beautiful. And that's just an hour away, and they're getting 26 inches of annual precipitation. And yet they would kind of consider probably being in the same zone.
Because of temperatures. Their temperatures are so close.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, temperatures play a part. Of course, if we're selling seed down in New Mexico, we're selling more on the warm season grasses, because they can survive better and stay greener for longer in those hot temperatures. To kind of answer your question, we do mainly specialize in more of the cool season grasses, which is catered more towards the western side of the United States. But we have a lot of contacts that we can kind of go back and forth with species. And so in that case, again, it kind of depends on the area of Florida, because if you're right on the coast, unfortunately, we're not going to have anything you'll be able to plant, just because of the humidity and things like that. But if you're in the drier side of Florida, or in just a really higher precipitation area, we still have varieties that'll do well in there.
Got it. That's interesting. So our growers that we focus on, and our grant that we can apply to support those growers, are right now very California focused, but also Washington, orchard and vineyards in Washington, Oregon. We have a hazelnut producer in Oregon that's in one of our programs, and then even Arizona. And so we're very Western states focused. And this is where I thought, I come to you personally for like wildland seed. But when I started thinking about and learning about the goals of the growers on the West Coast here that are orchard and vineyard producers, some of them have a ton of precipitation. They have a ton of resin vegetation. They have like this vineyard that's in this image behind me, plenty of vegetation, plenty of precipitation. Others, literally, like you said, an hour further east, it's a much drier context.
Yeah.
But they do want cover. They want perennial cover. And so it's really but they're also farming in the summer. And so they're getting ready for harvest. All their orchard management, vineyard management is happening mostly in the summer. And so they actually want crops, or cover crops, that are on and vegetative and pumping carbon into the soil in the cool season. And they want them off, ideally dormant and just, roots in the ground, but not up above ground creating forage and biomass during the summer. And so I think about it in terms of like goals and guardrails. Like you stacked it, there's the zone and there's precipitation, and soil type are important. I also think in terms of goals and guardrails, like what are they trying to achieve and what are they trying to avoid?
Right. Yeah.
Do people come to you and talk like how does somebody address? Here's what I want to avoid in terms of a seed mix or narrowing down on a species. I hear babies.
Yeah.
That's good. Family office is good.
Oh yeah. There's only a few of us, and three of the gals that are in this office, they just recently are new mothers. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we're kind of we're very family oriented here.
Busy, very busy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So in that selection criteria, do you help walk somebody through, if we came to you with here are their goals, here are the guardrails, here's what they want to avoid, do you help walk them through like what's the species or what's the species mix that might be appropriate for what they're to achieve those things?
Yeah, no, for sure. And even at the point, because there's commonly people that don't really know what they want. And, I'll ask those questions of your annual precipitation, soil type, and elevation. And, some people just don't know that information. And so I'll ask where you're located, and I can find that information out pretty quickly while I'm on the phone with you.
Okay.
And then from there, we'll go through and kind of figure out what your goals are, whether you're using it for hay, pasture, reclamation work, or if they're looking for more of a cover crop to kind of help that soil. There's also like soil stabilization that we also help out with. So, different species kind of help that, help different situations. So yes, we can, if you don't even know what you want, we can help you figure it out.
Yeah. And I know you've got some preset mixes, but you do mixing as well, like seed mixing as well. Tell me a little bit about how that works, does it complicate the process, or what is, if somebody wants a custom mix, which I think most of our growers will.
Okay.
I foresee that if we came up with a standard mix, a lot of growers would want to take something out or add something to it. And so starting from scratch with each one, customizing seems like a good place to be. Is that an option?
Oh yeah. So we actually specialize mostly in that customization. We commonly get people that are working with the NRCS, and they will bring us a sheet that the NRCS has put together, a species that they're requiring, and we just price that out. And another good thing is we don't charge anything extra for custom mixes unless it's like a really small quantity. Because of course, with those custom mixes, to do like 5 pounds or less is really difficult. Just because we're on a much larger scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So usually for those custom mixes, if it's like about 5 items, the minimum is about 10 pounds. If it's any more than that 5 varieties, we'll, begin increasing that minimum depending on how many varieties are in that custom mix.
Yeah. Well, most of our growers, I hope and I expect, are going to be coming in with at least in a 10-acre increment to take care of. And so I'm expecting, more like 500 to 1,500 pounds per acre, or for that first order, and then some of them will be following on with another up to another 100 acres if they're using the grant. And so we'll definitely clear the hurdle on the custom mix side of it.
Sounds good.
But one thing I like about the custom mixing is that you can literally go in with, like, if you want 3 items plus 1, 3 species, you want a good legume, a good grass, a forb, but you want a wildflower in there. Like, you could take one of those wildflowers that feels very expensive, but you could get like 1%. You could go in with 1%. And you also list on your website how many seeds per pound, which is really informative too, I think, because something might be expensive, or inexpensive. But if the
Right.
seeds per pound is really dramatically different, you might find that, oh yeah, this one looks expensive, but it's got 10 times, it's got 500,000 seeds per pound instead of 50,000 seeds per pound.
Oh, right.
Then
Yeah.
and do you help with suggestions on the blending or the the mix ratios for different types of seed that are being incorporated?
Yes, and honestly, that's usually most of the time is that they'll give me recommendations of like kind of species that they're looking for,
Hmm.
but they're not really sure, quantity wise. And so I'll take their list and I'll put. We usually go off of like a percentage
Hmm.
way, and I'll just do percentages per variety. And
Okay.
even if they don't have any idea of what they want, still like I'll put together species that will grow well in their area all
Yeah.
once I ask all those questions that I talked about earlier, and then I'll do all the customization of the percentages and stuff like that.
Great. How you have a ton of wildflowers on your website. It's wild. It's wild. It's amazing how many wildflowers there are that you have. Where are those coming from? Are some of those wild, and some of them are very pricey too. Are they
Oh, yeah.
wild collected, or do you have growers that can actually produce that seed for you in the context that they're operating in?
Yeah, so some of them we do have collectors like penstemon, lupine, kind of those native varieties. We have
Hmm.
people that will go out and collect them.
Okay.
Other varieties, we have vendors that kind of more specialize in wildflowers than we do. Because compared to some of our other vendors, our selection on those wildflowers is very minimal.
Okay.
We do have quite a few wildflower mixes, but
Hmm.
those can't be customized.
Okay.
Those wildflower mixes are the way that they are, and unfortunately, there's no way to alter them.
Okay.
Um, and so there's many varieties in our wildflower mixes that we don't carry as single items.
Got it. But somebody could take the wildflower mix and could they mix it into, could you take 5 pounds of wildflower mix and blend that into another, the cover crop mix if you wanted some in there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, right on. What kind of lead time is needed to work with Great Basin? We're thinking planting is going to be um, mostly November,
Okay.
post harvest for the orchards and vineyards before the rains have really hit, but close to the rain. So sometime we expect late October into mid December is probably going to be prime time, with November being the
Mhm.
peak. What is the lead time need to discover, plan a mix, plan what's going to be ordered, get that order stage, and then get it on a truck to where it's out here?
So from when we're working with like custom mixes, I'd probably give us maybe about a week or so to finalize that mix once we
Uh-huh.
start communication. Just we really want to make sure that we finalize that mix catered to what you're looking for. And a week is, at the most. Sometimes depending on how busy we are, because fall time is our busy time,
Hmm.
um, that time frame can vary. Um, it could be just like a couple days, but at most it would be a week. And that's just, depending on how quickly conversation goes back and forth.
Okay.
And then, but once that order is finalized, of course, depending on the quantity, but if we're,
Hmm.
a pallet, 2,000 pounds, we
Hmm.
can easily get that done. Say you were to place that order with me today, we'd get it shipped
Okay.
out tomorrow or Friday at the latest. And then shipping time, depending on where you're located, can vary, a couple days to a week.
Got it. Got it. So pretty nimble when you get down to it.
Oh yeah.
Um, this is a little bit of a divergence, but I know it's something that Great Basin has been involved in quite a bit, is wildfire restoration
Hmm.
and putting together seed mixes. And that's a niche that, it's apart from ag, but I find it fascinating. What are some of have you all been able to be involved in some of the post wildfire, success stories, or wildland restoration projects, and um, any interesting anecdotes from getting into that space?
Yeah, so not since I've been working here, because I've only been working
Okay.
here since Since about 3 years or so.
Okay.
But the Brian Headfire is one that we reseeded.
Okay.
And I've seen some pictures of how it's coming together and it looks awesome. But we supplied much of the seed for that Brian Headfire.
Got it. Got it. Does that follow the same path in terms of selecting what's going to go on the ground? Is it soil, zone soil? Of course, the soils change possibly from the fire,
Mhm.
but the same kind of criteria you use in a specialty situation like that.
So when it comes to those fires, it's a little bit harder because we're not talking about just a single plot of land of a customer's. It's, usually spanning several thousands of acres.
Hmm.
And so with that, we really have to accommodate, some areas might be higher elevations, some might be, different soil types. And that soil type can range from clay, like super heavy clay, sandy, to really
Hmm.
rocky. And all of that kind of has different varieties that do better in. And
Yeah.
so usually for those wildflower mixes or wildfire mixes, we have to just do a broad variety. Um, I think the last wildfire mix that we've done, I think it was like anywhere between 15 and 20 varieties that we put in there.
Yeah. Throw a lot at it, see what sticks. And those are probably being flown on, they being
Yeah.
applied by like helicopter
Yeah. Or drone. Drone
or
is
drone. Yeah.
coming along really quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I think the drone application is exciting. I don't know if it would apply for orchards. I think it'd be interesting to see if the orchard, if the canopy depends on if the canopy's, if they've lost their leaves, first of all,
Right.
and then also just how much you don't want to pay for drone application and then walk through and see like in the crook of the tree, as the tree splits up into multiple trunks, see like, oh, there's an ounce of my seed right there on every tree,
Right. Yeah.
sitting in this pocket. But drone application of seed across a number of different ag contexts is it's getting exciting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It really brings down. It makes it possible for a smaller operator to do broadcast, and the timing of the broadcast as well. Like, oh, you can see, yeah, it rained for 4 days straight. The tractors are not going in the field, but guess
Mhm.
what? You can put seed down at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's pretty
and
cool.
so it expands the timing and the season for getting seed down the ground.
Hmm.
So our growers, a lot of them are, they're in California. It's a Mediterranean climate. It's hot and dry in the summer. They want the seed. They want the cover to be ideally some perennials. So we're thinking about perennials, keep roots in the ground. We want cool season,
Hmm.
um, and we want it to go dormant or shut down because of heat and or lack of moisture.
Hmm.
Um, are there any like superpowers, seeds that kind of, what are the species? What comes to mind when somebody says that in terms of, the first like top three things that come to mind for you, for a grower to consider?
So, one thing that we have to keep in mind is when we're dealing with more of orchards and vineyards, once
Hmm.
those trees start growing, they're going to provide shade. And a
Hmm.
lot of those perennial like varieties, they do prefer full sun.
Hmm.
And also most of the time from what I've, from a few farmers that I've talked to, they want more of shorter growing grasses. Because a
Yep.
lot of our perennial grasses, they can grow upwards of 3 to 4 feet.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are for like forage value, or just reclamation, which, in reclamation, height really isn't a concern. Um,
Hmm.
so a few that we've recommended is like fescues, hard fescue, sheep fescue. Did I say sheep fescue? Idaho
Hmm.
fescue.
Okay.
Those kind of tend to be on the shorter side, and fescues can tolerate shade. So
Okay.
fescues are one that we recommend. Clovers are another one because they're a little bit on the lower growing side. I do have a couple cool season perennials like Siberian wheatgrass, Sandberg bluegrass, blue bunch wheatgrass, my bad. And those all grow about 12 inches to 15 inches at most. So
Nice.
they're on the shorter side. Those fescues, they do require just a little bit more water, but for the most part, they're pretty drought tolerant, especially like the Idaho fescue.
Yeah.
They tend to be more on the drought tolerant side. But the good thing about having a vineyard is usually they're needing a little bit more water than your average pasture. So
Yeah.
you can accommodate those varieties that need a little bit more moisture anyways.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those perennial grasses, if they don't get the water during the summer, because they're perennials, they'll just kind of die off. They'll desiccate and dry off on the top. But then when the rains come in the fall and the winter, will they come back because they're cool season and they're perennials?
So that's kind of depending on water situation. It can be, sometimes they can go dormant. A lot of the time, what triggers that dormancy is the temperature.
Okay.
Once temperatures reach about 90 to 100 degrees and they're at that temperature for weeks at a time, at that point, that's a lot of heat stress for those varieties. So they go dormant. They'll go that kind of yellowish color.
Okay.
If they're not, I mean, like any other plant, if you think about it, if they're not getting moisture, unfortunately, they might die off. There is that risk.
Okay.
Now, but because they are those dry land varieties, many of them can survive on very little water.
Yeah.
And another part that plays a part in that is how well your soil holds moisture. If you have a really sandy soil and it drains really quickly, obviously they're not going to have very much water to pull from. And the benefit of having some of those dryland varieties is they form really deep root systems. And that's what really helps in those dry situations, because they can reach that water that's really low in the soil. And so even if the top of the ground is super dry, if they're still able to access at least some water underneath, they'll be fine and they'll be okay. And of course, when they go through that dormancy stage, they're not really growing anyway. So they're not really utilizing as much water anyway. So they should be fine. And most of our dryland varieties, we're planting them in areas that get no added irrigation. They're just relying on the annual precipitation. And here in Utah, we could go, 3 months without any moisture. And our varieties are adapted to survive that.
Yeah, I think you just described a lot of California's agricultural lands.
Yeah.
And the thing that you mentioned about the height is something that we've heard. We heard it straight from an almond producer, actually, at a regenerative tree nut day that we went to, and he said, I don't need 6 tons of biomass per acre. Like, I'm not baling this stuff and selling bales of my green cover. He's like, I want roots versus not shoots. And so we've kind of latched onto this roots versus shoots idea, and that guardrail of 12 inches of grass, grass or vegetation that's getting 12 to 18 inches max is kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people. Because they want the roots. They want the roots that are doing exactly what you talked about. Penetrating roots, deep roots that keep soil opened up, that can pull deeply when they need the water. And then also the heat stress side of it. That 90-degree plus temperature is most of inland California right now for most of the next 2 to 3 months. And so we've kind of got that. So it sounds like there's a number of the species that are either native or adapted to kind of the Great Basin climate, the cool, wet winter, dry summer, dry, warm summer can be utilized in this context.
Yep.
That's great. That's awesome. What are the superpowers of Great Basin? Like, what are the things that you think set your organization apart as a seed supplier, as a business to work with?
Well, one of them that we kind of touch base is that we're able to do custom mixes.
Yeah.
And a lot of other companies that we work with, if you do a custom mix, your minimum is like 500 to at least a pallet. Whereas ours is much smaller. So we're able to hit a lot more of those smaller farmers. Even on some of our varieties, we can accommodate 1 ounce of seed. So you can order as little as 1 ounce to a truckload of seed with us.
Wow.
And, and on our website, we've set up that if you buy $150 or more worth of seed, you get free shipping. Anything less than that, you just pay a $10 flat fee. Which
I've used that a few times. I've used your free shipping a few times.
Which is awesome because it just we just started utilizing that in the last like year and a half. So it's very new for us. Before, we were having a lot of people abandoning their carts because of that shipping. Because when you think about it, if you're sending 50 pounds of seed, usually that shipping's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I think the free shipping side of it, when you're selling retail in 20-pound or 50-pound increments, before you did that, I would sit and toggle, like, where's the break point? Like, where's it going to go from 1 box to 2? Because you got the shipping calculations on your back end. It's like, oh, he just went from 50 to 70 pounds. My cost per pound just like doubled. Because now there's a second box involved. And so the fact that you've done that to where it's just, obviously the cost is in there. We're paying for the shipping in one way or the other. But the fact that it's baked into the price, it's very simple. You look at it like, okay, this is what I'm paying, and they're going to figure out how to get it here. And I think that helps a ton. Obviously, with our growers, since we have the luxury, I think, of being able to schedule some of these shipments to get them pre-planned, pre-mixed on the truck, LTL truck, less than truckload. If we're sending 1 pallet to California, maybe we should send 6,
right.
and we try to make it so that we can get some streamlining on that side of it. But no, I think that's a huge help.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, for sure.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we haven't adventured that. We haven't been able to apply that to our grain side because there's not grains. Unfortunately, if you order, a pallet of grain, you're going to be paying for that shipping.
Right. Well, yeah. Again, it's in the price though. So is that on the grain side? Would that be Haystack Mountain? Is that the focus there?
So
how are those two different? What's the same? What's different?
Yeah. So there's actually 3 names. So we started out as Maple Leaf Company. And that's when the whole native seed collection started. And then from there, we had our online presence, which was Great Basin Seed. And so that's like our retail, social media, all that is under Great Basin Seed. A lot of our locals know us as Maple Leaf. Haystack Mountain is more of our brand name. So when we sell to dealers, we'll put Haystack Mountain on our bags. So our dealer customers don't try to undercut them and come to us. They'll still continue to go to our dealer.
Got it. Now, when I've been able to see Haystack Mountain's inventory list, it looks different than Great Basin's. What's online with the Great Basin? What's the focus? What's the species focus that's different, or the customer focus that's different?
I'd probably say that sorry, my nose is so Haystack Mountain kind of is more on like our dryland pasture mix, our irrigated pasture mix, our grains, alfalfa, kind of those varieties, because those are mainly what we sell to our dealer. And so that's kind of what we put on our bagging and things like that. So usually that Haystack Mountain is more for our dealers to visit, rather than like retail customers. And so we haven't really done much vamping on our Haystack Mountain webpage. So Great Basin Seed is definitely where you want to go when you're looking at all our varieties, because we have spent years perfecting that. And it has, as you've been able to see, has extensive information. It's
Yeah.
easy to navigate, and it has pretty much all of our varieties that we sell.
Okay. Yeah, you can do a lot of self-discovery and learning about the different varieties and species there and families of plants. But if there is something different, like when we bring somebody to you, if it's in the Haystack Mountain group only, we can help a grower put that together, get that incorporated into their mix.
What do you mean?
Like if there's a, like you mentioned some legumes perhaps, or some varieties that are not, the inventory is not perfectly aligned. If there's a species that's over on, one side or the other, it's on the Great Basin side or it's on the Haystack Mountain side, either way, we could help a grower get access to that,
Yes.
to get their cover mix, their perennial cover mix dialed in.
Yeah, so we're all the same company. So no matter what,
it's out in the warehouse.
Yes, exactly. So we don't have like a Haystack Mountain warehouse where we have to go somewhere else. We have it all here. It's honestly just kind of however you refer to us.
Yeah.
The service is the same, the varieties are the same. Just if you're, if you end up on our Haystack Mountain page, you're gonna be like, oh, they don't really have much. But then if you make it to our Great Basin, you're like, holy, they have a lot of stuff. So but the varieties are exactly the same. Because you can find every variety that's listed on our Haystack Mountain on our Great Basin.
Yeah. So what happens when there's a I know the answer to this. It's just I want to hear the story behind it if you can share. And this might be completely non sequitur to the cover crop topic at hand. What happens when there's a mistake in mixing? Can you take it apart?
No, unfortunately not. When there is a mistake, we'll tell the customer like, hey, we made this mistake. If you still want this mix, we'll offer it you at a really good discount. But if they choose not to, then we will sometimes list it as like we have a kitchen sink product on our website. And just recently we did like a whoopsie daisy mix. And that's exactly what that was. There was one item that was incorrect on that.
Right.
And so the customer didn't want it. So we listed it as the whoopsie daisy mix.
So I've looked at this, and it's annual rye, and it's forage or tillage radish, right?
Yeah.
And then like some orchard grass and and another perennial. But it was like 29 or 30% forage radish. What was it supposed to be? Was it supposed to be like 2%?
I don't know. It wasn't my mix that I was doing. So I'm not really sure which part or which variety wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
I want to say that it was the annual ryegrass that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. But that's kind of how we do that, is like if there is a mistake, we'll take accountability for it, because we have our yard guys that do it all by hand pretty much. Like we have big barrels that they'll put the seed in, and sometimes they can grab the wrong bag, because there's a lot of like similar varieties as well. Like one that is a common not misunderstanding, but like purple prairie coneflower is not a thing, but we've somehow got it into our mind that that's an item, but it's only like prairie coneflower or purple coneflower. And then there's purple prairie clover. And so both of those items are very similar, and we have gotten those mixed up before, because it's like, oh, I pulled this one, but it's like, wait, I needed this other one. And so we have to be really careful when we're doing those mixes, of course.
Yeah.
And just, attention to detail. And with how much we do our custom mixes, it is very rare that we run into that issue where we mixed it incorrectly. Our
Sure.
yard guys are pretty on top of it, and they do a wonderful job for how much that they do. It's very rare that they make a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's fun though. Like I think the kitchen sink, the whole hey, we've got 12 different bins. We're down to the tailings in each bin. We're just gonna throw it all
Yep.
together and sell it. I think the whoopsie daisy mix. I think it's fun. It's for if there's a retail customer, whether they're buying for their garden or for their 10,000 acre ranch, like it's just hey, if you're paying attention and something comes across the radar that's it's on sale,
Mhm.
get it before it's gone type of thing. I think that it makes the interaction with Great Basin fun.
Yeah,
um
no, for sure.
it's often not something you'll need, but it's just fun to see how you all react to those opportunities. It's like
Yeah.
let's just sell it.
Yeah. We
somebody's gonna put, so you'll put it in the ground and you'll grow something.
Exactly. Yeah, we've had pretty
Yeah.
good luck, and if there is, like you said, the tail endings of things, we just throw it in a mix and it sells. It
Yeah.
We usually don't have a hard time selling things. So
Yeah. Are perennials, I know perennials are a big part of what you sell in terms of your listings. Are perennials a big, are they the driver for your sales, or are annuals still? Because I think annuals are very common in most of the cover crop mixes. We're
yeah,
pushing the idea of perennials because the roots, the depth, the permanence. Are perennials what you move most of, or how's that balance play out?
honestly, if we're talking quantity of what we move, that'll probably be our
Yeah.
grains, and
Okay.
grains are annuals. So I
Yeah.
guess our annuals are our biggest quantity that we move,
Okay.
because many people are, buying at least a couple pallets worth of our grains, if not a full truckload, just because they're much cheaper, like they're cents to the pound rather
Yeah.
than, several dollars per the pound, like our perennials. Um,
And that's mostly farmers. Like they're buying wheat from you to grow wheat. Is that's okay?
yeah, and for hay and things like that. Especially like our triticale, unfortunately, you aren't able to use that to regrow for seed production. But
Uh-huh.
you can use it for hay production or grazing production and things like that.
Interesting. Interesting. Do you ever see people buying the grains as a component to a cover crop?
Oh
Is
yeah.
that okay? Tell me a little bit about that. Are they using it just because it's doing the same thing? It's producing biomass, it's putting roots in the
Mhm.
ground, but they're mostly annuals at that point.
Yeah, so we actually most cover crops are annuals.
Yeah.
You can't really find a good perennial cover crop. I'm not really sure if there's really much out there for
Well,
that.
don't say that because that's our whole goal.
Well,
I
because
think
if
I
you
think the idea is different. Like the cover crop in the traditional sense is we're going to plant it and then till it or terminate it,
right,
and we're saying you're going to like make it part of the permanent structure of the system.
yes.
So
So, when you're using it as your main goal is to improve that soil biome, and because anything that you plant is going to add organic matter to that soil. It doesn't
sure,
really matter what you plant, it adds
yeah,
that organic matter. But when you're wanting to add a little bit extra, that's when those radishes, those tubular varieties come into play.
hmm hmm
And also, a lot of people use grains as cover crops. Um,
interesting.
and so we have a mix called our Dirt Doctor cover crop mix. And a
Uh huh.
huge percentage of that mix is our Motley triticale.
Okay, got it. Now, does that is if I'm a grower and I'm trying to establish perennials to take root, um, but I also am okay with some annuals in there that I'm just gonna let everything go to seed. I'm not gonna determine it's gonna grow, go to seed. Then I'm gonna either roll and crimp it or I'm gonna mow it. Um, and then we'll, the perennials come back next year, and hopefully the wildflowers that were in there come back next year. Because I've either got roots in the ground year round, or I've got some seeds that went to ground. With the annuals, if somebody's using some of those grains as a component, are they likely to out compete the perennials? Do you ever see that happen where the annual components out compete and then they shade everything out? Because I think I've heard of some grains being so competitive that they can just shade everything out, almost like a, maybe that's good if they're shading out weeds. Or is
So
it just a matter of mixing the right percentages?
yeah, so a lot of it comes down to the percentages of those varieties.
Okay.
And it's up to us to kind of figure out, these varieties are going to come up quicker. And so, of course, they're going to add that competition much sooner than these slower perennials. And so,
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate that, we have to juggle that percentage of those annuals to ensure that it doesn't outcompete or overshade varieties. One variety that's pretty sensitive to that is like alfalfa. And so
Mm-hmm.
for as like adding a grain to alfalfa, we usually try to not recommend because alfalfa likes its sun when it's trying to get started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we keep that in mind with, the goals of the customer. And if they have those questions, we kind of guide them towards what we think is best. And if it ends up being like maybe we should stay away from those taller varieties or those annuals to make sure that your goal is achieved with these other varieties, that's
Yeah.
where we'll go.
Yeah. No, that's great. When you look at the different levels of complexity, or different like the goals, the guardrails, the soil temperature, zone, and then species height, speed of growth, like is this going to
Mhm.
outcompete, is it just going to smother everything? Clearly there's a lot of variables to consider when it comes to putting something together.
Mhm.
So I can see there being some back and forth about what are the trade-offs,
Right.
what's at risk, what's the trade-off, what's an absolutely, it's absolutely necessary,
Mhm.
etc. So that makes it fun. I imagine you've got some preset mixes, but people probably bring to you all kinds of ideas for unique mixes that are, kind of make you raise your eyebrows,
Oh yeah.
and say, "Wow, this is a new way to look at it."
Yeah. Like we've had, a couple customers down in Florida, or even just like all over at the East Coast, where
Hmm.
they're trying to what we call is reinvent the wheel, so to say.
Okay.
And they're like,
Yeah.
well, I know no one else tries this, but I'm going to try it anyway. And we're like, okay, well, we'll sell it to you, but I
Right.
can't guarantee that it's going to work. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, we have a few customers that are like that.
You never know. You never
Yep.
know. What I know you've been there for a few years. The company's been there for 40 plus years or 50 plus years.
Yeah.
What's your sense of like the change in agricultural's approach to using perennials, using natives in their system, in their production system?
Ooh, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that. I'm so new to the industry.
Yeah.
I did not grow up in agriculture. I actually just came from a sales background and I applied to the
Yeah.
job and I got it. Um, of
So
course,
you're learning every day.
yeah, yeah. And it took me the good first 2 years to even just know our varieties.
Sure.
And have a good handle on being able to create those custom mixes. And even now, like I still ask people in my office, like, hey, can you just double check this and make sure it looks good? Um,
Yeah.
but since I've been here, of course the weather has a huge part in what people can plant. As of right now, normally our busy season is around like April, May, and we're kind of might be still on the tail end of our busy season come July,
Okay.
and then and tail end of June, and then July is our really slow season, July, August, and then towards the end of August it starts picking up again for the fall season.
Got it.
But this year, March was the busiest season or busiest
Huh.
month. And then even into April a little bit, but towards the end of April, we were really slowing down, to the point of even now, like, the phone hasn't rang since we've been on this call. And
Wow.
usually, and that's just with the weather. Oh, there it is.
There it
Um,
goes. Just like that.
yep.
Magic.
So the weather has changed so much since,
Yeah.
being here, that people are more leaning towards grains. Like our grain sales this year have been really good, because
Mhm.
they're the annuals. They don't require that much water. Um, and our alfalfa sales have kind of gone down just a little bit because
Mhm.
alfalfa needs a lot more water.
Mhm.
And the water's just not there. We took a trip up to Red Bluff, California at the beginning of this year. And I think it's the Sierra Nevadas
Mhm.
were had no snow pretty much.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
usually at the time that we were going, they were covered in snow just a couple years ago. So the water situation and the temperatures increasing to rise, has really changed, kind of more people leaning towards the dryland varieties rather than irrigated varieties, unless they have the water to accommodate it.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And this year, well, March was here in California very warm.
Uh-huh.
Like it was I don't know if it's the warmest March on record, but it was very warm.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have a lot of snow, and then of course so much of the country is in a severe drought. Uh, and so no, temperature and moisture are critical. And I would think like what you're saying in terms of whether it's an annual or a perennial, how's this plant going to survive a dry stretch?
Mm-hmm.
And how's it going to do with warmer temperatures is probably
Yeah.
on the minds of just about everybody.
Oh yeah.
Which ironically, I guess we could say here for most of our growers, the cool season, like we don't really have a cold season in California. We have a cool
Mm-hmm.
season. We don't have below zero. We don't have long-term freeze. We don't have a lot of snow in most of the agricultural areas. So,
Okay.
but cool season is still going to be wetter. But even this last winter, like the moisture that came in this last winter was all in about a 2-week period. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the beginning of the season. We had some early rain and then just like 2 months of dryness. And so that's very definitely going to be, I'd say it's dynamic. At best, you can say it's dynamic. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that in the time that you've been there, you've had to come up to speed on all these things that you go to people in the office. Are there resources there that back you up in terms of if somebody comes to you with a curveball or a question about what to recommend? Are there resources there within the organization to kind of drill down and help somebody select a mix and get it dialed in for their unique situation?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
my boss, Jason, he has been working at this company since he was a little boy. Um,
Okay.
so and he does a lot of work with like the BLM. And
Okay.
he spends months on the road going to see collection sites and things like that and seeing how the native varieties are doing, how
Yeah.
how their seed production is. And so he is one that I commonly will go to when I
Yeah.
need help and advice
Yeah.
and things. Um, and he is an amazing resource. His knowledge base is it blows my mind every time when I talk to him.
Yeah. He's the guru, the
Oh yeah.
savant, the seed
Yep.
savant.
Yes, he is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's the website? Your retail website, Great Basin Seed?
Yes.
Is
Yep.
it greatbasinseed.com? As straightforward as that.
Yeah.
If somebody wants a deal on a unique forage or cover mix for their pasture, or you got the whoopsie daisy mix in play right now, which
Yep.
is fun. If somebody wants to put some tillage radishes into
Oh, yeah.
their system for a little bit. But we will be bringing you growers. We'll bring you
Perfect.
some of these curveballs, some of these odd mix ideas. I think there's going to be interest in your wildflowers that you've got,
Yeah.
and you've got so many perennials that fit into that cool, wet winter, dry, warm summer matrix. I'm certain that there's some perennials across, you know, grasses, forbs, and legumes that we'll have some growers that are interested in those.
Perfect.
So we'll be bringing you those. And I just want to hit this again for anybody that didn't hear this on the front end of the conversation. Oakville Bluegrass Cooperative, you know, we're an ag co-op. We're focused on orchards and vineyards, primarily on the West Coast, and helping them get perennial or permanent or conservation cover established into all that dirt that's between your vines and between your trees. And to help achieve that, we've got a phenomenal grant. We've got $3.5 million in grant funding to distribute a maximum of about $13,000 per grower to procure seed. And as you mentioned, a lot of times these perennial seeds are more expensive than just, you know, putting in a cover crop, an annual cover crop with a lot of grains. And so to make it less expensive, make it more accessible, we've got this grant to help underwrite a good portion of that seed, 100% of it for the first 10 acres. And so we're hoping that people can reach out to us, you know, peruse your website, peruse Great Basin Seed.com to see some of the opportunities of what's there. Hit up obc.ag. Let us know what we can do to support a grower, support you in terms of getting that free seed or grant funded seed, thanks to the USDA. And we can do some work together. So yeah, any final thoughts? I really appreciate your time, Daysha.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Okay, well, we will wrap it up here. And I'll hit the stop.